My name's Gabriel Piemonte, and I'm out here with my family and friends to announce my candidacy for the 5th Ward aldermanic position. For too long in the 5th Ward, residents have felt marginalized by the alderman, Leslie Hairston. And when they've sought to be an active part of participation in conversation around how the neighborhoods should change, they've been told that there are already decisions that have been made, that they need to get in line. And we believe that there should be a different way that we think about how things should happen in the neighborhood. And we think that, in fact, when you look at our neighborhoods, you see that there are negative consequences of that kind of a decision-making process that leaves people out. We're here today on 71st Street, not only because my campaign headquarters are going to be just a few doors down, but also because we believe that this is emblematic of the consequences of exclusive leadership. So as you look at 71st Street from the Cultural Center down to Cottage Grove Avenue, you see block after block, storefront after storefront, empty, vacant buildings that could be instead opportunity. Each one of these storefronts not only represents one less consumer choice, but it also represents a handful of jobs for local folks that aren't here. They represent also an entrepreneurial opportunity that people have been left out of because individuals cannot afford to start a business on the street. And so we have to ask ourselves why that is. If you look at a record of what's happened in terms of ownership on 71st Street, you see a pattern over the last several years where local owners, after years of paying mortgages, owning title to buildings, are ending up having to sell those buildings to either out of town or literally out of state property owners who then are not having the interests of the street at heart, of the neighborhood at heart, but their own interests at heart. That's not just happening on 71st Street. If you look at 53rd Street, which is a very successful retail operation in a lot of ways, you scratch the surface and you see there are really challenges there. When you look at one storefront after the next on 53rd Street, you see national chains, and you see where there is a small business, have a conversation with the business owner. They're from the north side. The University of Chicago has recruited people from other parts of the city to take part in the prosperity of 53rd Street. Now my question is, in terms of 71st and in terms of 53rd, where's the alderman? Where's the pressure locally to make those changes in our neighborhoods happen in a way that benefits people who live in our neighborhoods? Now, it's not limited to retail spaces and commercial corridors. We have challenges in our housing stock as well. Homeowners are struggling with very similar scenarios where, for different reasons, they've been unable to maintain their homes, and those homes end up being turned over to people who are living out of the city or out of the state. The challenges are that in our communities, we don't necessarily have the fluidity of capital to allow a challenge economically, either personally or in a larger sense, to be bridged and to be traversed so that a person can continue to have that ownership. In those moments of crisis, we don't have the bridge loan from a local bank. We don't necessarily have the friends and family living locally who are able to help us out. In some cases, we don't even have our own capital to draw down on in order to endure those difficult times. Again, there are opportunities available to make a difference, but those opportunities are not present if we don't have the bridge, if we don't have the leader, if we don't have the person to make sure that we're able to get through times that are hard together. Because instead what's happening is decisions are being made by one person or a small group of people. When we have a challenge like the vacant storefront on 71st Street that was the Dominick supermarket, rather than the community being rallied to come up with a solution, there was an individual decision-making process coming from the alderman and not including folks who were really pushing to be a part of that process. The outcome is that Dominick's closed in 2013. We still don't have a grocery store in a neighborhood that's a food desert. That doesn't make any sense. That's failed urban planning. Now finally, when we look at the big projects that have been developed for this area, the Obama Center and the Tiger Woods Golf Course, we see that there is potential for great opportunity there, but there are also huge challenges that represent failed leadership once again. In the Obama Center project, we have zero representation in terms of having an engaged conversation that allows the perspectives of the community to be a part of the conversation. Instead, we have a kind of secrecy, lack of pure conversation in meetings, so that when people attend events where there's supposed to be some engagement with the community, instead we're being talked to, we're being told what's going to happen. Once again, we're not having a conversation about what we would like to see happen. And once again, I ask, where is the alderman? That's where you need local leadership to push for a change. Looking at the Tiger Woods Golf Course, we see an absolute failure of leadership. based on a simple fact. This is an idea for local development that when it's finished would produce a Masters golf course, a PGA level golf course. What that means is we would have a golf course on the south side that could have televised, broadcast championship competitions. What has never been discussed, as this project has been discussed, is the tens of millions of dollars for every individual championship event that's televised. The reason we're not hearing about those dollars is clear, because that's not going to go to the people, that's going to go to the private investors who are transforming a couple of neighborhood golf courses into one golf course that's going to profit and benefit the people who are able to get control of that public land. We need to be thinking differently about all of these sorts of developments, and the way we have to think is in terms of local control over them. So what we're suggesting is that first, the alderman has to be a spokesperson who listens to the people and is a conduit to talk about these issues. Second, there have to be vehicles in place to allow residents, people in the community, to actually have a say, not just advisory, but a compelling say that says thumbs up or thumbs down on individual pieces of projects. In other words, in each neighborhood, I will create local development councils that will allow us as neighbors to choose people from our neighborhood to help steer development in the neighborhood. If there are pieces of projects that we have problems with, we can have conversations with people who we live right next door to and help steer what's happening. If we have a developer in our neighborhood who builds shoddy workmanship, we'll be able to stop that person from coming back until we have guarantees that that's not going to happen again. When people promise local hiring but it doesn't come through, we give them a no thank you when they come back to try to build again. This is the way we should be handling local development. We have to build the local economic infrastructure that makes us not only economically viable, but politically viable. We have to make sure that every neighborhood has a chance to actively participate in decision making and actively participate in their own success. I promise you, if elected, to do all of that, and I thank you very much for your time. Please go to piemonteinthefifth.org to learn more. Thank you. Thank you all.